welcome to Feel Better Now, a place where we give you the tools to feel better and happier through tried and tested life hacks.
Hi everyone, I'm Anoushka and I'm speaking to you from California, and this is my wonderful bestie Darshika.
And I am currently speaking to you from Hong Kong. So Anoushka and me have known each other our entire lives. And but in the time, of course, we have spent time together, but most of the time we've spent is apart. But we've managed to maintain this friendship, and in fact, if anything, it's gotten really strong, hasn't it? It's gotten stronger over time. And I think the reason why it's gotten so strong is because we found that one common factor that actually brought us together, which is
art.
Anyway, less than that and more on what we're going to do today. So today we're going to kind of try and work on a technique that has helped, I think, the both of us, right, to kind of release our feelings. And I think this is something we like to share with everyone, because especially at times of COVID, where, you know, it's so easy for us to, you know, go down a hole, into a dark hole, and you know, not be in a good place. So how can we actually move from there into a better place? And so should we try out this activity that we've been talking about? So in this activity, what you'll need is basically 2 pieces of paper. It could even be a book with 2 sides, and a pen or a pencil. Do you have those things?
Yeah, I have my book here and a pen.
And optional, oh, that's great. So optional would be colors. So you could obviously, if you want, you could paint, or you could fill it in with, you know, crayons or watercolors. It's entirely up to you. Use your imagination. I'd like you to trace your hands onto the paper. So you could use one hand for both sides of the paper, or for both pieces of paper, or you could do, you know, maybe your left hand on one and the right on the other. Actually, that's really nice, because sometimes if you use a non-dominant hand, you know, it can be quite therapeutic and quite, you know, because you're mindfully trying to control it. So yeah, so once you've done that, what I'd like you to do is, on the right hand, we're going to call it the let go hand. Okay, so all these feelings that you've been feeling through COVID, or just generally, that kind of brings you down, or it doesn't make you feel good. So obviously, first you need to kind of become a bit more aware of these feelings, and I'd like you to pen them down onto your right hand. So an example would be, you know, anxious or anxiety. So if you feel anxious, write, you know, anxious. Or if you feel angry, you could just write angry or anger. It's up to you whether you want it, if you want to write the adjective or the noun. I think writing adjectives is better because it's what you feel. And then on the other hand, on the left hand, I want you to become aware of those feelings that you're feeling, and think about how you could change the way you feel from those negative, or those feelings that don't make you feel good, to feelings that would have a calming effect on you. So for example, if you're feeling hatred towards somebody, you want to change that to, you know, maybe tolerance or love, for example. Or if there's, you know, frustration, you want to replace that with patience. So write those words, and feel free to color it or do whatever you want with those hands and make them feel, make you feel good. And in the meantime, while Shka is doing this, I'm going to talk you to the physiological process as well as the emotional process, so that we know what's going on. So while you release what's on your mind onto paper, onto those hands, what exactly is the process? So we have a common system called the autonomic nervous system, which controls the unconscious body functions, like all the things that your body naturally does, like, for example, breathe, or, you know, digest, for example. So 2 of its main components are the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is responsible for responses like the fight or flight or freeze response, and the parasympathetic response is responsible for the rest and digest system, basically. So it has more of a calming effect. So basically you have like self-regulatory techniques that can help trigger the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the calming response that our nervous system has to balance out the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system that are very cooperative, and they actually work together. So what happens is when you are, for example, in a situation like a dangerous situation, of course you would naturally respond, to that danger, and your body would kind of freeze if you see a lion, for example, and you need to respond in that manner. But over the years, what's happened is that we've taken on a lot in our lives, and we're so switched on that we struggle to handle things in our lives, and that's why you find our stress levels have increased, or we've become more anxious. There's a lot of anxiety in our lives. So that is us taking that to a different level. So what we've got to do then is we have to make a conscious effort to then move to this parasympathetic or this calming state. So we have to adhere to these self-regulatory techniques like the one that Shka is doing at the moment. So what's happening, what Shka is doing is you're becoming a bit more aware of these thoughts and these feelings, because they do exist, but because we don't deal with them, we're not aware that they exist. So by thinking about them, putting them onto your right hand, you're becoming aware, you're transferring it onto paper, so there's concrete evidence of what's going on in that mind of yours. And then you're making a conscious effort to think, how am I going to actually replace those feelings to make myself feel better, so that it calms my internal being and process. So for example, if you replace the words like anger with love, or with, something more positive like patience, you automatically feel better within, so that's exactly what's happening. You're transferring those feelings, and then you're making an effort to replace them with something to make yourself feel better. And why wait to feel better when you can actually do that in this moment? So take charge and to actually do that now. So Shka, could you talk to us and tell us what's going on in that head of yours, and how you're coming along with your activity?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much done, and I can share with you first. These were all things that I wanted to let go of.
Okay, so you've got resentment, fear, lack. Very nice. I like that. Envy. Very good. Good.
Yeah, so I think for me, the most helpful part about this process was when I feel really stressed, it's like a mixture of all these feelings, and I really can't pinpoint one of them or identify them, and literally just putting them down on paper kind of just makes me even aware that I have these feelings. So I think,
so before you did that, did it surprise you that you had all these feelings? Or?
Yeah, it absolutely surprised me, and it just made me feel like, oh my God, I already feel lighter just for having written it down.
Nice. Yeah. And what about the other hand? What do you want to replace?
The other hand,
self-belief. Yeah, that's nice. That's a good one. Oh, that's very nice. And what was happening in your mind?
Now, because all of us have gone to this digital medium of life, you see this constant feed on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok of people just doing activities and doing things and their skills, and you're always thinking how you measure up. For me, this almost feels like a roadmap that the next time I'm scrolling, I have the choice to move from feelings of doubt and incapability to feelings of empowerment and self-belief. Make that a positive part of my life rather than just harp on the negativity that person's doing it and I can't.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's an attitude that you're working on. Hang on a second, why don't I change that into something that's going to make you feel better as well, and yeah.
Yes, it also affects your mood, right? Because if you start your day scrolling and that's the first thing that you feel, your entire day then just goes really, really poorly. Yeah. So I think the takeaway for me is, when you explain, when you do an activity like this, what you're taking back is control of your feelings, and control that you can go from feeling not so good feelings to doing an activity like art or going out for a walk or having a hot shower?
I think, another thing is breathing. Like a lot of people, we hear a lot about breathing, and just to give you an idea of what it actually does is when you breathe and you exhale, when you exhale for a long period of time, it increases the production of saliva from your salivary glands, and that is the parasympathetic state. Because if you notice, when there's dryness of the mouth, that is your sympathetic response. So just something such as breathing releases, the saliva, and that just automatically puts you in a calming state, and it helps. So people probably wonder, why breathing? But that's what it does to you.
That makes so much sense, and I never knew that. So yeah, that's exactly why I think that, these kind of discussions really help from a physiological and a psychological point of view, because then what effect your emotions are having on your physical being, right? So
earlier when you mentioned about when you wake up and you look at things on your Instagram, there's actually research that says that you should start your day and make sure that you don't engage in any of the social media at the beginning, and you take control and charge of how you're going to start your day, and not by what others are doing. All right, take control, feel better now, guys. Signing off is me, Darshika, and
Anoushka.